When you trust Ferguson Roof Systems to replace your roof, we go the extra mile to protect your home and property. On every job, we deploy durable netting to protect your home's exterior and landscaping. It's just one more reason why you should call Ferguson Roof Systems today.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. By the way, thank you, Tiffany, starting off the stars on Facebook. Appreciate that. Matter of fact, again, if you're usually late to the party or if Facebook doesn't notify you when I do go live, you can always opt in to get the messages directly from me through your Facebook Messenger. So I will post the notice right now. And that way you can opt in anytime. Again, thanks for joining me on Rumble, Twitter, and YouTube. So let's get started. We do have a risk of severe weather out there for today. We're going to talk about that. Plus, there's already some thunderstorms going on here in the Oklahoma City Metro. And we're going to deal with that as well. So we'll get to all that and more for your lunch break here, about 10 minutes till noon on your Thursday. All right. So first thing we're going to start with will be, let's do this guy right here. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. You see those clouds? Some ominous looking clouds already. Temperature of 61 degrees. So in other words, we do have a little bit of a milder start to our day. We're done with that winter cold spell, at least for a brief period of time. And I do mean brief. Wait till I show you the map out there in western Oklahoma. So here's a look at the radar, though. We do have this little round of some light thunderstorm activity moving through Oklahoma City metro area. Heavy rainfall associated with this. You might get some very small hail that may come out of some of the stronger cores within this as it moves off to the north and east. But this will be our first round. It will be mini for today across the state. And again, mostly down to our, let's just call it along the I-44 corridor in the short term, and then down south and east from there as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon. Another nice little thunderstorm out here southwest of town around Anadarko. So some good rainfall coming. We definitely need the rain, but we probably are getting a little bit of hail within this first few rounds as these thunderstorms mature. So, but nothing technically severe at this point in time, but I do expect at least some hail threats around the metro up to around golf ball size. So here's a look at temperatures out there. And as we mentioned, temperatures are a lot colder across the western part of the state than they are across the east or south. So as you can imagine, this little blue line, don't have to use your imagination, but yep, that's the cold front. And that is quickly surging to the south and east. And it'll be quickly moving probably to this fashion here in the next couple of hours. And then eventually kind of in this fashion, and then in this fashion, and then by 6 o'clock tonight, kind of in this fashion. So it is going to crush through Oklahoma during the day. And that's actually a good thing. The faster that front moves, the faster it clears this severe weather threat out of it. Now, dew point values, though, however, have recovered into the 60s. Here's a little line right about in this fashion. So again, remember, we need tornadoes to occur. You need to have dew point values typically in the 60s across the area. But look at these dew point values up here, man, into the 20s and 30s. That is some dry air coming in. That'll be filtering in. So we're not quite done with winter or the drier season. You can see the winds out of this gusting around 30 miles per hour across western and northwestern Oklahoma. There's a panhandle wind gust of 42. My goodness. All right, here's a look at the severe weather threat for today from the Storm Prediction Center. So it does highlight that area here across the southern third of Oklahoma, stretching into the northern parts of Texas and northeast Texas, including Tyler, also Dallas-Fort Worth. And if we break down the individual threats, here's the tornado threat, which has increased a little bit. Here we see this little yellow shading. That's a 10% notch that covers from Dallas-Fort Worth through Rockwall up to Paris, etc. in southeastern Oklahoma. The brown shading does also mean including of tornadoes. The green shading is basically we can't rule it out. It would be a freak event. We're not expecting it. But needless to say, it's a possibility. And then hail is the other main thing as well. Big hail swath expected here across this area where any storms that do form in this zone will be capable of anywhere from golf ball to maybe grapefruit-sized hail, especially down this area of North Texas, Dallas, and far southern Oklahoma along the Red River as you have better instability and better moisture, etc. to work with. Also, the wind threat is some of these storms as well. There's a little sweet spot there. Otherwise, anywhere in the red or yellow, or technically even green shading to get bursts of wind. All right, so here's a look at the threat kind of shortened into the Oklahoma area. We've got the slight risk that just touches Oklahoma City metro area. Most of it's going to be just down to our south and east for today. Again, this is basically for the hail that may form here in some of these stronger thunderstorms, but down south here from Lawton to Ada, this is like the fine-tuned sweet spot if you're looking for more of a higher magnitude event. Here's a look at the tornado potential down there. So medium around the Durant area and points west. Really, I would extend this out toward Ardmore. So really from Durant to Ardmore, this is like the sweet spot for tornadoes today. You can get them elsewhere in in the green area up toward I-40 here in parts of eastern Oklahoma, but they pretty much should be staying out of the greater Oklahoma City metro area. So probably about Norman is the far northern end of a very, very low risk. All right, here's a look at the southeastern part of the state. Again, south is the higher risk versus the north, with the potential for some hail and wind and, yes, tornadoes. All right, so here's a look at where the largest hail may occur. As we talked about here, golf ball size is possible in this little zone that does cover the metro area. Otherwise, larger hail is potential on the table for around the Lawton to Wichita Falls, and we're looking for some big hail as well, up to around grapefruit size, possibly down around Ardmore, Durant, and also the mention of tornadoes in that area. If we do look at the model data, this is the 500 millibar pattern, which shows a lot of this little colored map, color stuff on the screen. That's representative of vorticity or lift in the atmosphere. So this is our upper level disturbance that's coming through. So it's right over Oklahoma and North Texas. We also have a 500 millibar wind max that's coming through. So this is a little speed max that's jetting through the area this afternoon and evening. So that's also a good position for severe storms. At 300 millibars, we also have the upper level jet overhead, so it's also a good position for severe storms. So everybody's pretty much lined up for storms this afternoon. And here is the 700 millibar lift, the vertical velocities, which highlight where the lift is on the frontal boundaries, and this is for a cold front and dry line intersection at this point in time for about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock this afternoon. And then you can see that's right here over south central Oklahoma. It's really the sweet spot where things really ought to get cranking here for today. If we take a look at the dew point values, and I put this in motion, this is kind of a good reassurance for you that the surgence of the drier air will put an end to your severe weather threat for today. So here's, let's go to noontime today. So at noontime today, let's back that up right here, and you can kind of make out where the cold front is knocking on our door, right? Because these dew point values drop off from the greens quickly into the browns. So once this brown area hits you, your risk of severe weather evaporates. That's good news. Now watch how quickly, though, this boundary moves through. And then down here, of course, we have the blue area, it's where you see the dew points in the 60s, so that's your more favored zone for tornadoes. Now, the winds down here is at least one of the good things there's two good things to help combat the idea of tornadoes. One is this front that's coming through is moving really fast, so it can have a tendency to undercut the thunderstorms. And when that happens, it kills off the updraft strength, and then they die out slowly, but it kills off the tornado threat and kills off the really large hail threat. The other thing is these winds, even though they're southerly down here in North Texas, they kind of veer to more of a southwesterly direction, and tornadoes don't like that. They like a south to southeast wind at the surface. So again, we got two things going in our favor to help reduce the tornado threat across this area. So that's anytime you want to reduce the threat, it's always good. Doesn't mean you won't get one. It just means that you get, maybe instead of saying you get 3, maybe you only get 1. That's kind of, it's an odds game. It's a percentage game, probability game. All right, so there's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you'll see the front is already working its way through Oklahoma City. So there's 2 o'clock, and then here's 3 o'clock. So you can see this stuff just moving on through pretty quickly. As we go into the 4 and 5 and 6 hour, look how the front's almost cleared the state. So way down here in southeast Oklahoma. So that means any storms left over for our evening period will be out of Oklahoma. Normally, we don't really kick things off until 5 or 6 o'clock, and they hang around until 9, something like that. So this is going to be an earlier show, and it's going to be out of here show. That means North Texas has to deal with it, southwest Arkansas, far southeastern Oklahoma, though, for the afternoon. All right, here's a look at the instability from the HER model, which indicates, again, a lot of Cape values surging northward up the I-35 corridor here in Oklahoma. Dallas needs to watch out as well because they're under the gun for potential tornadoes today. Also, the idea of significant hail, so some of the analogs go up to around grapefruit size, and some decent strength on the tornadoes. In other words, a significant EF2, possibly EF3 level of strength on a developing tornado. So you got to be really mindful down there in North Texas, including Dallas. Use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It predicts these tornadoes before the warning is actually issued from the National Weather Service, and it can be up to 15 minutes or so, which gives you more time to get into that storm shelter or get your kids together, the family together, the lowest floor of the home, all that kind of stuff. We do look at the model cam data to find out where they think the best helicity tracks will be. Helicity tracks indicates either potential for some very large hail, damaging winds, and or tornadoes. It doesn't always mean a tornado, but in favorable conditions it can. So we'll take a look at that. So here's one cluster view, which does have a few tracks here across south central and southern Oklahoma along the Red River into North Texas. for this afternoon and evening. Another model here shifts that activity a little bit more to the south and even backs it into the west a little bit. Some pretty decent tracks on and across Red River to North Texas. So these could be, in other words, model indicated tornado tracks. Now they won't be exact in the position, but the signal is there. The models are expecting to have a few tornadoes in this region. If you look at this particular model, it doesn't like anything out here and shoves it all east. And got a few areas there in Dallas. This one likes to shove them more north. This would be more hail instead of tornadoes, however. It does have a couple of tracks down here in North Texas. Let's see, the HUR on the high resolution for it also has an idea of some pretty good hail tracks across central Oklahoma, and then potential tornado tracks probably down here in southeast into northern Texas through Dallas. So the take home is that they all kind of reposition these just a little differently. But they all kind of have the idea that we're going to be seeing some thunderstorms with hail and potential for tornadoes. So if we go into the afternoon hours, you can see a few of these kind of hit and miss little hail cores that do extend along the line, south and east of Tulsa, back here just south of Oklahoma City metro area, back here in the southwest and south central Oklahoma rather, on into Texas, just west of Dallas-Fort Worth. And those will move eastward with time. So any of these little tracks you see down here can be tornadic. Same thing here around the Ardmore area. A little bit further north, these become more likely to be hail versus tornadoes, especially up here in this part of Oklahoma, like I-40 corridor. But down here in southeast Oklahoma, these tracks can easily be more tornadic. So that's kind of the look there. All right, I'm gonna see if the type model has come in and see if it tells me the same kind of idea on the story. And yes, it does. So a little hail potential here across the greater metro area of Oklahoma City, some of those thunderstorms, and then down here, these little tracks in red indicate better potential for tornadoes down there. So south central Oklahoma, Pauls Valley, Duncan, that area seems to be the sweet spot where the models seem to like that activity. Now, there is a difference between models when it comes to North Texas. You notice this one doesn't have anything for you guys down there in Dallas. Why is that? Well, you have a very strong cap in place, and it thinks that the cap isn't going to break, which means you won't have any storms until the cold front arrives, and that reduces your threat for tornadoes, but increases it for a little bit of gusty winds and hail. All right, so in the afternoon hours to, this will be 6 o'clock. There's that kind of starting to see more of a line develop here at this point. So in other words, the supercell look till the storms disappear, and more of a squall line tries to form, which can have some more damaging wind with it. You can still get an embedded supercell within this, with a tornado, somewhere in this, or you can get the typical QLCS tornadoes that occur on the leading edge, but a lot weaker. So either one of those are in the forecast for that configuration. Then you can see down here in Dallas, the front finally starts to trigger off, breaks through the cap here around 7 o'clock, and triggers off a couple of thunderstorms down there. And sometimes you have to watch the tail end of this to see, if you can get a surface-based storm triggered by the front to ingest the environment for producing tornadoes, as long, again, as the cold front does not undercut the storm. Again, if the cold front's moving faster than the storm is, then that'll kill it and prevent that from happening. But that's on the table down here in Dallas around the 7 o'clock hour, according to this model. So in other words, you're on the iffy spot for Dallas. You can go either way. It's unfortunate the weakness in meteorology is forecasting the cap strength a lot of times, because we don't have enough sensors for that. So we have to do a lot of guesstimation with that, and that way you can sometimes get the cap to break and sometimes you can't, and each model is going to tell you a different story, and they don't know either. So that's the issue. It's the frustrating part of the forecast, believe it or not. We will eventually break through that hurdle with some AI, and also I think with either let's call it drone network, that can go up, sample the atmosphere, and come back down if we can get the FAA to approve such a endeavor. All right, so here's a look anyway this afternoon. So it's got that line of thunderstorms across central, northeast Oklahoma, down south toward Lawton. So some meaty thunderstorms down here. Again, it's just one model's interpretation of it. Each model's going to be a little bit different. There's 4 o'clock. Here's 5 o'clock. Kind of give you the idea, just timeline, and we're going to get your heaviest thunderstorm activity. Again, especially down here across the south central part. Still some pretty decent stuff along the I-40 corridor going through eastern parts of the state. Dallas, it does trigger a couple of thunderstorms down your area. I'll take a look at you here in a second. But there's 6 o'clock from McAllister, just east of Ardmore, down towards Sherman. So that is where the line is located there. And there's 7 o'clock. So it's racing pretty quick. And by I think 8 o'clock, it's almost out of the state. So there's 8 o'clock right there, coming to the last county of McCurtain, moving on through, and then it's all she wrote. All right, we'll go down south into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We'll take a look at a couple different models, for example, just to show you whether or not they think the cap will break. So this is the HUR model. It's our best flagship model, the highest resolution one. So it's supposed to be the one that has the best handle on it. Let's see what it does. So here's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Here we go. So 4 o'clock, it does try to break the cap. but it breaks it only just to the northwest corner of Tarrant County, moves it here into north of the Dallas area. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a favorable profile for tornadoes, significant hail, and this looks good. Very, very weak cap in that area, plenty of shear. So, again, potential tornadoes here for anything that develops along this I-35 corridor on the north side of Dallas-Fort Worth. But you notice down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area itself, no storms have developed there, even despite the fact that models did reduce the cap strength in that same area. They just didn't have anything surface-based to try to fire it on. So it doesn't mean that that's going to be exact. It just means that first wave, it didn't do a whole lot. But it does indicate the atmosphere could become uncapped at that point. So that's the take-home. It does still try to produce additional thunderstorms through 7 o'clock. And then here's that line trying to get going here at the 7 to 8 o'clock hour moving through. So you can see that squall line development that moves in. And again, typically when you get a squall line development, your tornado threat starts to decrease as far as those really big ones go. You can sometimes get the small ones, but not the big ones. And there's 10 o'clock moving well through out of the northern Texas area, passed on through Tyler, heading toward Shreveport, midnight, moving down in that configuration, falling apart down there in south central Texas. We'll go one more model for you on the short-term deal here, and we'll see how it treats the cap strength down there. All right, so this one fires off a couple of storms around the Weatherford area by 5 o'clock, up to the 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock hour. It kind of does a mixed bag. It tries to produce a couple of thunderstorms, and it looks like it's going to start to try to produce a squall line pretty quickly. Same kind of configuration by the time you head to 8 o'clock. So it looks like a mixed bag here, assuming the cap breaks in Dallas-Fort Worth, which means you can have a couple of supercells first, and then you get the solid squall line that develops afterwards, and all that moves south and east. All right, so that's kind of takes care of that whole area. Rainfall amounts with this event, pretty decent, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in some areas here in central and south central Oklahoma, and then up to about 1 inch maybe in some areas across far east. Same thing for Texas, kind of on the leading edge there in DFW, and then most of the rain is east of you. As far as look at the snowfall amounts, again, I don't think they'll manage to too much as far as maybe a brief coating on the grassy surfaces for an hour or so before it melts. Up here in northwest Oklahoma and northern Texas Panhandle, here's this afternoon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4, 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock in the evening, going through Woodward, here in south central Kansas. And then by 7 and 8 o'clock, a few flurries rolling through Enid, maybe even Ponca City before dying out by 9. So a little bit of snow up there in northwest Oklahoma, and that's just because temperatures up there are going to get pretty cold behind this front today. All right, so let's look at 9 o'clock here. We'll go to noontime hour. So there's our temperatures here for noon with these 40s out northwest and 60s to near 70 east of that front. So there's 2 o'clock. So the cold front by this time, remember, will be working its way in through the metro area from northwest to southeast. Timing may vary just by a little bit, but needless to say, your warmest, more unstable stuff of temperatures in the 70s near 80 is down here south of Lawton toward Wichita Falls. And that's kind of behind the little dry line action that's trying to develop down there along the surface low. But meanwhile, man, look at 3 o'clock. We're back into the 40s real quick. So if you're going out today, make sure you take a jacket with you. It'll be quite colder by the time you head home from work, for example, at 5 o'clock. But otherwise, we head to the rest of the afternoon. There's some 30s pocket in here. They're barely 30s. I mean, we're talking 36, 37 degrees. So it's barely enough to have a few wet snowflakes mixed in. Otherwise, just a few light raindrops up there. Otherwise, let's see, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We'll keep on going, see how temperatures continue to fall by daybreak into the 20s and 30s across most of the state. And then for our tomorrow, for Friday, a little cool of a day. As my wife likes to say, it's refreshing. So it'll be refreshing tomorrow, which is mostly the lower 50s. And then we'll repeat the whole thing. So we'll be back on Saturday morning into the 20s and some 30s out there. And then Saturday afternoon, we will be back, unfortunately, not quite as warm. Looks like mostly a lot of 40s with the 50s down south along the Red River. So a cool start to our weekend. One of these days, we're going to get out of our winter weather mode, but it won't be in the short term. So through really Monday of next week, quite a bit on the chilly side for overnight lows and daytime highs. As we head into the extended after that, Wednesday and Thursday look pretty good. And then after that, a little bit mild. By the way, Joni, thank you for the stars on Facebook. I appreciate you. Same thing, Ryan. Thank you, brother. Tabitha's in the house of stars, and Jamie. So thank you. Let's see. And Tiffany got you as well at the beginning. So always appreciate you guys supporting me in that fashion. I will be around. You bet, Ferguson. So again, this broadcast is always thanks to Ferguson Roof Systems for supporting me. They've been with me for a long time. So good group over there if you ever need your roof replaced or even have them looked at. They'll do an inspection for you for free. Let's see. we might need to replace a few roofs today because of the hail and some wind. Hopefully no tornadoes, but again, I'll be around to watch them this later this afternoon and evening. Covering it for you guys down there in far north Texas and southern and southeastern Oklahoma should they occur. Make sure you get my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It predicts the tornadoes again before they develop, giving you more time. So you may have it, but what about your friends or your family members? Do they have it? If not, just tell them about it. Just text them. Say, hey, go download this, AT's Weather to Go, Apple, Google Play. That way they're safe too. And also you can always put their address in that app on your phone. So if they don't want to do it, and they're just being ornery, you can say, you know what, I'll put your address in and I'll let you know if it's just a tornado coming. So you can do that too. You can do that all across the country, as a matter of fact. Sandy, thank you for the stars as well. Looks like a nice hot cup of tea or coffee there. I could probably use some. I'm still cold. All right, guys. Hey, it's back to lunch we go, so I appreciate you stopping by. Again, I'll be watching things for you, and I appreciate your support. And stay safe out there. We'll talk again soon. Take care.